Morning, everyone. My name is Larissa, and it's Friday, so that means we're going to practice for 30 minutes. Reminder, if you need to step away at that 15-minute marker, just set a timer, but I'll encourage you to stay if you have the time this morning. A reminder that even though it's a little bit of a longer practice, it's always just practice, and we're not trying to get it right. There's not a perfect way to do it. And we just follow that simple formula, our 3 steps. We choose a focal point, we return to it again and again, and we try to be as kind to ourselves as possible in the process. And all of that is just choice making. And with choice making, what we really first need is awareness. So, at its heart, this meditation practice is simply an awareness practice. And the pure awareness that comes that doesn't have a judgment attached to it. And that's sometimes the most challenging part. So we'll notice these little judgments of mind that come up. We're, judging what somebody said yesterday or what we said or how we're feeling or all of these different things. But it's really just a practice of pure awareness, observing ourselves, and not trying to force that either, because invariably your mind is going to make judgments. We're going to get uncomfortable. We're going to have moments of delightful ease, and then we're going to try to return to that delightful ease when the discomfort comes. So just kind of naming and normalizing that our practice is multivariate, multifaceted. There's lots of tools we can work with, but it really is just showing up for yourself and giving yourself permission to see what you see through the lens of kindness. And as much as possible, noticing when we judge and seeing if we can soften it. The tool we've been working with before we get into the practice, just a little bit of context around this tool. We've been working with curiosity and then awe and wonder this past month. And awe and wonder, it's really kind of on the forefront of this idea of emotional sciences. And awe and wonder has its own benefits. So, something like our default mode network, which is our way of relating to how we are in the world. And sometimes our default mode network also is the place where we're creating anxiety, etc. It helps tone down the default mode network. And there's science to actually show that this is making positive changes in the brain so that we can observe rather than judge what's happening. So this practice of awe and wonder, it's again, there's these scientific benefits, but can we just notice how it's affecting us? I'm going to give one more example of our meditation practice. And oftentimes, what we do is we try to use our thoughts to change our thoughts. We're using our mind to try to change our mind. And that's not a bad thing. And there's lots of really beautiful tools that help us with that. But it is a little bit like if you have a really tight screw that you're trying to remove, and you just have another screw, and you're just using another screw to try to remove that screw. It's just not the right tool. It doesn't mean that it can't work over time. It doesn't mean that the screw in your hand won't loosen the screw that's bolted into some hard wood, but it's not the right tool, right? So it's utilizing these tools and not blaming the screw and not blaming the screw in your hand, but just recognizing, you know what, maybe I need a different tool. Instead of trying to think my way into a new way of thinking, I'm going to practice a bit of awe and wonder. And awe and wonder might be a little bit of a solvent that helps loosen up that screw. And then, truly, just to use this analogy a bit more, our body is the screwdriver. Our body is the exact right tool that's going to help us get out of some of these non optimal thought patterns or see them for what they are. Just maybe somebody else's opinion and we glommed onto it. Or just an old thought pattern we've thought for so long, we're recognizing, you know what, that's not even the truth anymore. But our body is the anchor. And our body is really this part of us that stays in the present and gives us the ability to get out of those ruminating thoughts, those non optimal thought patterns. So we work with our mind. Certainly, we're using our mind to curate curiosity and awe and wonder. But again, it's our body that really we're trying to contact and come back to again and again. So we notice we get caught in thought and we forget that we even have feet. And then we notice, oh, yeah, that's right, my feet are touching the floor. And suddenly that thought becomes a little bit less grippy, right? So it's not pushing away thoughts, it's just contacting yourself through your sensory awareness again and again and again. So, with that in mind, just again, a little context about this practice. I'll invite you to make that first choice of choosing a posture that feels supportive for you. You might already be there. You're welcome to close your eyes or soften your gaze downward. It's going a little bit more internal with your visual attention. And as much as possible, turning your vision to yourself with kind eyes. And that's not always easy to do. And just noticing in this moment, is there anything here that could bring me a little bit more comfort? And take your time checking in with your body. Maybe some neck rolls, maybe an adjusting of a pillow, or getting up and grabbing a cozy blanket. And give yourself permission to take care of yourself here so that you can get comfortable and stay for a little while. As you're continuing to settle in, just again, inviting a curious eye, noticing when judgment arises. And that is enough. You don't need to fix the judgment, just recognizing it and seeing it for what it is. Sometimes we might use a thought as a tool to soften a judgment. You know what? Maybe it's not set in stone. And you just say that to yourself. You know what? That thought keeps coming back to me, but maybe it's not set in stone. And you just soften rather than push away, rather than reject. And then you just come back again to your body. And notice the sensation. Maybe the thought caused a sensation, a tension in the jaw, a softness in your jaw. Maybe you just notice again, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm just noticing my body and space right now. What does the firmness of the foundation beneath me feel like? And what does the sensation of sound coming to my ears feel like? Rather than naming the sound, what does it feel like in your body? And we know that feeling of a truck driving by, and we might feel a deep rumble in our feet or our chest. But less obvious than that, sound always creates a vibration. So, what do you feel? Just checking in, going slow, no need to rush to get to stillness. Just checking in. What is your body sharing with you? What's in your sensory field? Just check in again and again. What is the sensation you're feeling now? You might notice the movement of your breath, and you make your body a very specific anchor, like your breath. The breath is always moving, it's always with you. It's something you can always contact. So you might have a pointed focus like breath alone. You might have a more broad, open awareness of just your body and space, and you're bouncing between sounds and how that feels in your body, to noticing your feet touching the floor. But if that open awareness causes your mind just to start to wander a bit more, just come back again to a little bit more pointed focus. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's just breath. Just curious about the sensation of this breath. Notice how the air touches the outside of your nostrils as you breathe in. And notice how your body wants to soften a little on the exhale. And can you invite in a little bit more releasing as you exhale? And sometimes the breath becomes a little subtle, especially if there's like a big meeting ahead and your brain keeps jumping to the future. It's something like just opening your mouth and drawing air in through your mouth. It becomes a little bit cooler. You might feel it across your teeth or your tongue. So just inviting in a bit more sensation on purpose. And that's that curiosity. How can I use my breath to come back to this moment rather than trying to force myself to stop thinking that thought? Oh, yeah, that's right. How can I notice my breath? I went a little bit too subtle. How can I make it a bit more interesting? Deepen it, make it fuller, make a sound with it. Give yourself a deep sigh, like, ah. And suddenly the breath becomes interesting again. Play with that for a few moments here, just noticing how thoughts just come and go, and thoughts will get a little sticky and a little grippy. And when you recognize it, turn to your breath. How does your breath inform the present moment differently than how your thoughts are thinking about the present moment? Notice again, where's your mind? And you invite your attention back, just being gentle. And when thoughts are challenging, can you be tender with yourself? When thoughts have settled and you're just feeling easeful, it's the same contact. You're just tending to that easefulness and allowing it to be. No matter what comes up, just practicing observing it, not needing to cling to it, not needing to push it away, and noticing when our mind wants to cling and when our mind wants to resist, and not making that wrong either. Just noticing what's happening and then coming back to your body. Is there a sensation that comes with that thought? Where do I feel it? Is there a way to soften it, like softening my jaw? Softening your jaw is tangible. Softening a thought is a little more challenging. It can be. So whether you're working with a phrase like, you know what, it's not set in stone, or you know what, that thought's not for me right now, or you're just working with, oh yeah, that's right, I'm going to take a deeper breath. I'm going to breathe in through pursed lips to create a new sensation. Now we have an enormous amount of tools to work with, and there's no one right one. Like in that analogy of a screwdriver and a screw. There's a 4-inch screw that's been in a piece of hardwood for decades. It's going to be pretty stuck in there. And if all you have is one of those little tiny eyeglass screwdrivers, it's probably not going to budge it very much. So instead of blaming the tool, we go get a different tool. So instead of blaming your body or blaming your thoughts, you just notice, you know what, I might need a different tool right now. And sometimes that tool is opening your eyes and stretching to get a little bit of a refresh, and then you can settle back in again. Sometimes that tool is just the breath itself. You can just say, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm just noticing my breath. Sometimes that tool is turning on a piece of music that you love and just putting your focus on that. If there's no right or wrong way, you cannot get this wrong. You're just practicing being with yourself, becoming a bit more familiar with yourself, and just noticing with curiosity, one breath at a time. In this latter part of the practice, we'll add another layer with this curiosity, awe, and wonder. And so, beginning of just as we have, just being with your body, this curiosity about thinking mind, curiosity about breath. And then when we get into awe and wonder, curiosity, the antidote to judgment, but also the precursor to awe and wonder. Oftentimes we use our visual attention and we're looking for something new. So, a big landscape, a beautiful river. Oftentimes, nature brings us a lot of awe through our visual attention. And so, awe and wonder can be big and that big feeling in the body. It can also be subtle. We can use all of our other senses. So, we can also use our imagination or our mind. So, again, not using our mind to try to change the thought, but just choosing a new thought pathway. And this practice of awe and wonder, we're looking at our bodies right now. Can you bring a little bit of awe and wonder just to this breathing that's happening? There's invisible particles in the air that are coming in through your nose or your mouth, your air passages, going down into your body through veins and capillaries as they get smaller and smaller, finally to the alveoli throughout your lungs. And there, this magic happens where one gas goes through a cell wall and another gas is released. All of this is happening just on the inhale. And then the exhale happens. And there's a magic in that, that sure, science can tell us exactly what's happening. We know it, but we can't possibly think our way into it. Our body is just doing it. You can't sit and think hard enough to make that oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange at the alveoli level. but your body is just doing it. And just inviting in this awe of what your body is doing right here in this moment. Perhaps the wonderment of how a sound is created far away from us and it creates a ripple in the air. We can't see, feel, touch, or smell. And yet suddenly there's a word in our mind and we know what that sound is. And science tells us how this is happening, but there's a magic to it when we really sit and just experience it. Just inviting in this curiosity, this wonderment of being in a body, to be able to feel the sensation of a soft blanket or a loved one's skin or the skin of your own hand, fingertip to fingertip. What does it feel like to just invite in this wonderment, feeling through your sensory awareness, this wonderment in your body? Another invitation to use your mind as a tool is using sense memory. Sense memory is another way that we can enliven awe and wonder in us. So I invite you to recall just a beautiful landscape, or perhaps you were watching a bee or a flower. And consider something perhaps in the past week or so that brought you some visual beauty. Can you remember the fullness of the sensation? The sounds in the air, the sensations on your skin, maybe the vivid color of the landscape or the softness of the clouds. And just pulling up this sense memory with this curious eye towards awe and wonder. And then take a moment to imagine or recall the sound of laughter. Maybe it's a child's laughter. Maybe it's your own laughter with a friend that you're remembering. Perhaps it's even fresh this morning, laughing with your family or laughing at something on your phone. It's even just that feeling of laughter in your body. Your body remembers this. And it's not about pushing away difficult thoughts, but these sense memories can bring us into a resourced place, especially in difficulty. Practice this for a bit more. And you might notice your mind wanders as you start to work with it, or you're trying to recall the perfect scenario. It's just this sense memory. Can you recall a beautiful sound, maybe a concert you went to long ago, or your favorite song? The sound of laughter, the feeling of laughter in your body, the memory of holding a loved one or stroking a soft, furry kitty or pet. Bring these to mind and allow what's in your mind to land in your body, this felt sense memory. Just explore this practice. Final little mental inquiry this morning. There's something within the scientific study of awe and wonder. It's called moral beauty. And moral beauty is something that brings us a lot of wonderment when we're paying attention. The definition of moral beauty is observing someone offering their gift or their kindness to the world. So maybe it was observing someone help somebody walk across the street, or even just someone stopping in the street to allow someone to pass, or someone giving you a quarter at Aldi because you don't have one for the cart, right? These little tiny moments in time. It's different from physical beauty or visual beauty, the beauty of humanness. We oftentimes get caught up in the difficulty and the pain of humanness. Can you take a moment to just recall either a way you've seen that beautiful exchange human to human, or a way that you've received some of that beautiful exchange? Someone offered you something like a listening ear or a hug. And just take a moment to settle into this and recall something and notice how your body feels as you're recalling this memory. Even if you didn't come up with anything, it's okay. It's enough to incline your mind in the direction of remembering the beautiful parts of humanity. Even if nothing comes to mind, you've created that neural pathway that now you're looking for that. And as Rumi so beautifully reminds us, what you seek is also seeking you. I invite you to bring your hands into any of your closing habits or practices. You might bring your palms together or hands over heart. Maybe even just holding yourself in a little embrace, just holding your upper arms, whatever feels comfortable. And as we end today with our loving kindness phrases, you can repeat them back to yourself. And remembering you're just giving yourself your own well wishing, just this curiosity rather than judgment. And you might say these words right back to yourself. May I remember the innate goodness of my breath. May I remember to see myself with curiosity. And as often as possible, may I choose to move with ease and peace. Go slowly. Whenever you feel complete, you can open your eyes, find a little movement if that feels good for you. And again, that invitation to go slow if you can. No rush to get anywhere. Reminder to thank yourself for setting aside time.